Hi there guys, this is ShinMasaki here. We are here with some My Summer Car. Now, it has come to my attention that some of my viewers are having some problems with My Summer Car here, building the Satsuma. That's going to be either building, tuning, wiring, something of the sort. And so I've decided I'm going to be doing a tutorial video, a tutorial series to go and show everyone how to go and build, wire, and get your car ready for the inspection. This is going to be a full tutorial involving where to go and collect items, such as your tires, what kind of items you need to be purchasing from the store in order to get your to pass the inspection, and so forth. So, let's get right to it. Now then, as this is just a tutorial thing, I'm just going to take off my permadeath. If you're familiar with my normal plays here, you'll know that I always have permadeath on, but for the purpose of a tutorial, there's no need to have that. So I'm not going to be displaying everything that I'm doing, such as the driving aspect of it, because that stuff just gets boring a little bit, you know, for this kind of video. So I'm going to just be showing you what matters from the start. I'm going to grab their sledgehammer. Now then, I am going to be taking things a little bit on the slow side here. Definitely not my speedrun times, because this is not a speedrun, and we want to make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. Also, I'm going to unplug my phone, so we're not bothered by that. This is all about the Satsuma, and we don't need to worry about anything else. Alright. So the first things first is we've got our jerry can, we have our sledgehammer, and from here we're going to drive over to the mansion. If you are not familiar where the mansion is, it is going to be right past Fleetari's repair shop. So I will see you guys at Fleetari's repair shop in just one moment, and we'll then see. We'll show you from there. All right, so here we are. We are at the repair shop. We need to go to the mansion to go and pick up some tires. The mansion's going to be down this way. Now then, if you're not, this is not a required thing. You don't need to go and pick up the tires that exist here. You can always go and buy some rims from Timo? Yeah, something like that. And then you can, well, you can go and have the tires installed from there. But here at the mansion, go to the mansion, sledgehammer the doors down. And inside the mansion, up the stairs, there's going to be a stack of tires right back there. You do want to be careful. There is a hornet nest up over here, a wasp nest, and you will die if you get stung. So just be careful with it. If you go around the side here against the wall, they're not going to attack you. And we're just going to collect 4 tires from here. Now then, in the event that you go and have some tires that, like if you're moving them one at a time like this, and you have tires that are falling closer to the center, you can always try to reach in to go grab them. So from here, I'm just going to lean, grab our wheel. So these wheels are good enough to get the Satsuma going. They are not good enough to pass the inspection. So we need to do something about that. We need to install some new tires, some new wheels on these. So now that we have all four, we're going to head back over to Fleetari's place. And have him do an installation for us of some new tires. Now, if you are doing this on Monday, on the very first day when you start the game, it is possible that when you arrive here, he will be closed, at which point you'll have to come here another day to have the tires done. He does leave fairly quickly after the game starts, so you do have to move a little bit on the fast side to get here before he closes. For your tires, all you have to do is just put them on the counter right here, all four of them. And then we will order the work to be done. Now then, Fleetari also goes and sells other things here, such as engine components here. He will go and sell you replacements for the ones that you have, if you need to have them done. They do cost money, and we don't have from the start of the game, we don't really have the kind of money to go and afford stuff like that. So, after we have our tires up here, just go and check out his brochure. And then right over here, on our tires page, all we want are the standard road tires. Check that, and pay now. So now he's going to work on these guys. And we're all done here. We've ordered our tires. Those will be ready in about a day's time. Or they should be ready by evening time. For now, we're going to head into town, over to the shop, because we need to do a little bit of shopping. And I will see you there. Okay, so we've arrived here at the shop. We have a couple things that we need to purchase here. May as well start with the gasoline. Now the Satsuma runs off of gasoline and not diesel, so our gasoline jerry can that we had in the garage is perfect for what we need. For the purpose of this tutorial, I am filling up the jerry can all the way to full, but honestly you don't need anything more than about 75% of the jerry can. As far as our purchases, we need 1 alternator belt, 3 bottles of brake and clutch fluid, 1 bottle of coolant, 1 bottle motor oil. We need spark plugs, car battery, and that'll do. Now then, we could buy the oil filter, but we don't have that much money. So that's totally fine. I wasn't really paying attention to what he was saying, but I do believe he was saying that the mosquito spray that he stocks doesn't work. I'm not sure if that's a good way to go and sell your items, you know. Now then, you don't need to buy the battery. There is a battery in your garage that does work, it just needs to be charged. If you would like to go and put it on the charger, that's totally fine as well. It will take most of the day to go and have at least half a charge. But for our tutorial here, this is what we're doing. Alright, with that, we're done with our shopping. We have 2 marks left. And we're going to be heading home. We'll see you guys there. Okay, and we are back from our shopping here. I've moved the Satsuma, I pushed the Satsuma frame into here. I want to go and keep it in line with the garage pit here as much as possible. That way I have access to the bottom of the car as needed. Now then, I think for this build, I'm going to start by building the frame of the car before we build the engine. That way I have a little bit more room to work with. Now then, you can go and choose to build the engine first or the frame, whichever you prefer. It does not particularly matter. To start with, we're going to need the subframe. I'm going to be moving these things in position to where I would like to use them. Now then, we have along the side here, these are going to be all of our suspension items. There's going to be different items labeled as FR, FL, RR, and RL. That stands for front right, front left, rear right, and rear left. If it doesn't have anything labeled on it, then it does not matter which side it goes on. For the front end suspension, we need the following. Each side of the front end is going to need a spindle, a disc brake, a wishbone, a steering rod, half shaft, and a strut. So I'm going to be moving all of these over to each side. For the rear suspension, each one is going to need a drum brake, a shock absorber, a coil spring, as well as a trail arm. Trail arms are labeled as either rear left or rear right. So make sure you have the right one for the right spot. Finally, for our suspension, we also have this one here. This is our steering rack. We're going to move the steering rack up over here. So let us begin. I grabbed a 10mm from our spanners here. 10mm will be the first tool that we're going to use. And I'm just going to put this down here as it's closer to where I'll be working. Now then, for our subframe, you'll want to grab it from this side here, so the arms sticking out are going to be closest to you. And this is going to slide right in. Right there. Our 10mm, we have 2 screws on either side. And then there are 2 screws down over here. You can access them from up top, or if you need a better view, you can go down underneath the car to see it there. Next, I'm going to be working on each side of the car individually. We're going to do the front left, front right, rear right, rear left. I'm going to start with our wishbone support. This fits in right down over here. And this is going to be a 10mm. We have 2 bolts here. following the 10mm, we need our spindle. The spindle is going to be connected with a 12mm. There's just one bolt for that. I need my 9mm for our strut. And it's one thing I should go and mention is when bolting down your items, every bolt on this car is going to need 8 turns in order to be bolted into the max. If you bolt in less than 8, then it's not done correctly, then it's loose. You can try bolting more than 8, it's not going to make a difference, but 8 is how much you need for each. So I'll be doing 8 for everything. Now then, our strut fits in right over here. The strut's going to be the spring side up. And then we have our 9mm. We have 4 bolts at the bottom. Then on top, we need a 10mm. There are 3 bolts on top. And that's all that we're going to do here for the front, for the time being. So currently we still have our steering rod, our half shaft, and our disc brake. Those ones are not being installed at this time. We're going to move around to the front of the car here. We're going to be installing our steering rack. Now then, when installing the steering rack, you want to grab it so that this part sticking out here will be on your right hand side. So just like this. And just lean in. It's going to install in the back right around here. Right there. And then we have 4 bolts to screw in, 2 on either side. And again, these are 9mm. Okay. Moving around, grab our 10mm again. I'm going to do exactly the same that we did on the other side, starting with the wishbone. The car will be bouncing like that until we go and get the strut in, because it's not even at the moment. We have to put our disc brake on, or not our spindle on, I'm sorry, before we can go and put the strut on. Again, we have one 12mm. And then now for the strut. Spring side up. 9mm, we have 4 9mm at the base and 3 10s on top. Just fit this right in. And it stopped bouncing because it's now even. This game has a lot of things that you can work with. We fortunately for this do not have to be building our own shocks and struts. So no worries about that. All you have to do is just install the ones that come with the car. And again, I am leaving these guys here for now. We're going to move to the back of the car. For this, we're going to need our 12mm. Installing our trail arm is easy. You want to face it like this. So this black rubber part is sticking up. And since it's trail arm right, like this part here with the hook is going to be facing the car, and the flat will be facing you. There are 2 bolts here for this one. You can just stick your head into the car to go and find them. coil spring. Coil spring is going to fit right over that rubber part there. And that's going to hold the car up. Next, we're going to need our shock absorber. There's two ends to the shock absorber, one with 2 prongs and then one with one on top. The 2 prongs are going to go on the bottom, and the one on top's just going to fit in like that. Now then we have a 12 millimeter. 12 millimeter is going to be for the top. And then we have a 6 millimeter, 2 of them for the bottom here, on either end of those prongs. And finally, we can attach our drum brakes here. They are going to connect with 14 millimeters. That's going to be it for our rear suspension. I'm going to copy the same on this end. .12 millimeter. Trail arm, the arm facing like this. Two bolts. Then our coil spring, right over the rubber. Shock absorber right here. And we'll just connect this one more time. 12 millimeter up top, 2 6 millimeters at the bottom. And finally a 14 millimeter to hold the drum brake. Okay. Moving on up front, back over here, I'm going to be installing our steering column next. There's this side up here, this is where our steering wheel will attach, and the bottom is where it's going to attach or connect to our engine bay. So holding it like this, I'm going to just stick it kind of right here, and it snaps in. Now then, this is going to be an 8 millimeter. And then that's going to connect to our steering rack that we installed. There are 2 bolts for it, one on top, one on bottom. It's probably easier if you go and stick your head in from the side here to see both. Alright, and our steering wheel is attached. Grab our fuel tank and install this next. So now I'm going to move a couple things to the back end of our car. It's going to be our fuel tank, our exhaust muffler, our fuel tank pipe. Those are going to be the next 3. Those are going to be the next ones we'll work with. Although the exhaust muffler, we're going to put that on last. Now then, our fuel tank, just simply like this. It fits in underneath our car. And I actually forgot to grab that. Let's pull this over here. In hand, I have got our 11 millimeter. There are 7 bolts down here with 11 millimeter. Along our fuel tank, there's going to be 4 in the very back and 3 up front. Okay. Now I need my 12 millimeter. There is a fuel tank line, or fuel pipe line right here that we'll need to bolt in. And that uses a 12 millimeter. Now we get to install our fuel tank pipe. simple with this one, just fits in right here. And that's it. There's nothing to bolt in with that one, it just snaps in and we're done. We're going to work on a few things here as far as the interior of the car. I'm going to grab our 9mm. Now then outside, we've got the bench for the car. The rear bench we can install in. There are 2 bolts for this, both of which are 9mm. And with that in place, we can install our back panel. Now, if you have subwoofers for your car, you'll be using the subwoofer panel, but for our initial build, we do not have those. So our back panel is just going to fit in nicely right here, and that's done. Now then we have our 2 seats, the passenger seat as well as the driver seat. Let them just snap in here. And 9mm for these guys. There are 2 rails along the bottom, one on either side of the seat, and there are 2 bolts on each rail. Now I would like to express a little bit of caution when installing these seats. It's very easy to hit the car with the seats and cause you to push the car around a lot. So just be careful with that while you're installing these. Like a Hellcat. I'm going to be installing our rear lights. These are going to be our tail lights. Up on our table up here, we have got rear light left and rear light right. Left is always going to be the driver's side here. Right is going to be the passenger side. These are just going to fit over these holes that you have, and they just snap in place. There's nothing to go and bolt in with these. Now we have some things in the engine bay that we need to connect, and that requires things on our shelving up here. For now, right down here, I'm going to grab our gear stick, as well as our handbrake. I want to take care of the things inside of our cabin before we go and do that, but we are about to start working on our engine bay. The gear stick is going to connect right up here to this hole in the floor here. I use a 6mm. There are 3 bolts for this one. You're going to want to have to lean in order to get these. Now switching over to our 8mm, we have our handbrake. The handbrake fits right between the seats here. There's a slot in the ground right there, and there are 4 bolts for the handbrake. The handbrake also goes underneath the car to the rear brakes. We're gonna have to go down here with a 5mm. Right here at the cross arm, there is 1 bolt to put in. And with that, our handbrake is done. Now we're going to be installing the things inside our engine bay. I'm going to start with our radiator. Our radiator just snaps in right here. And using a 7mm, there are 4 bolts for the radiator, 2 on either side. And now we have to install a couple other things here. Now then, on my rack of things up here, what you're going to be looking for, right here, our clutch master cylinder. Right up here, brake master cylinder. Up top here, our brake lining. Top shelf 2, our clutch lining. Down at the bottom, our fuel strainer. Also down at the bottom, our gear linkage. These are what we're going to be installing for now. I'm going to grab one of the linings, either the clutch or the brake, does not matter, they install at the same place. Pick it up a little ways from you and lean into your engine bay. We're going to install at the very back of your engine bay over here. Try not to be hitting your car because you can push it out of alignment or out of the spot here. And same goes with the brake lining. Now then, our fuel strainer. Pick it up like this so the fuel strainer, the cap of it is facing up. And this one will fit right down over here on the inside of your engine down over at the bottom. Next we have our gear linkage. The arms up front and the little knob in the back. Right up here, you can just duck into your car and it fits right down here. Next, I've got my master cylinders. The master cylinders are going to fit in the back over on this side, and that's going to be for both of them. Now I've got my 7mm in hand for our master cylinders here. We have every bolt that's connected to them as far as the linings go. The linings will all be 7mm. Right up front around the master cylinders themselves, there are 3 bolts. Down below, there's another. To your left, there's one right in the middle. Furthermore, to your left, there's a little array over here. There are 4 of them connected to this array. And then if you follow this pipe down, there's going to be one more right here. Now then, along with these we have attached our brake linings. So now we have linings to connect for all of our brakes. Down here. For each of these ones here, we'll have one 7mm that we will need to screw in. I'm going to grab my 8mm. And for our 8mm, if you like, you can go and lean in. Our master cylinders are connected through 8mm. Each of them have 2 each. The one on your right, This one here has one on top, one on bottom, and the one on the left has one on the left and one on the right. While bolting these in, if you start to go and spin these up top, the caps, don't worry, it's totally fine. Then over here with our 8mm still, we have to screw in the fuel strainer. On the back there is one bolt. Now we're going to take our 9mm inside the cabin, attached to the pedals over here and our steering column right around here. We have 2 bolts. These are the master cylinders. They connect to the pedals to allow them to work. From here, I'm going to grab my 7mm, and we have a couple more things left to do. I'm going to grab my clock gauge right there, as well as my radio. I'm going to be working a little bit on the interior, the dashboard and such. Up on the table, we have our dashboard meters. Just turn the guy over, grab our clock gauge, and that fits into the clock, the spot for the clock. 7mm will tie this in. Following that, we have our radio. Radio just snaps in. There's nothing to do with that. We don't need to bolt or anything. Take your 10mm. Up here we can grab our steering wheel. And we can connect our steering wheel. That's going to be a 10mm. We can also grab our dashboard and install our dashboard. This is also going to be a 10mm. There are 2 bolts for the dashboard, one right in front, and one inside the glove box. I'm going to grab my 6mm, and we are going to install our dashboard meters. Now then, to go and tighten this inside the glove box one more time, we have 2 bolts here. And that's going to be it for the dashboard meters. That completes the interior of the car. It's nighttime at this point. I'm going to go in. My character is going to grab a little bit of bite to eat, something to drink, and take a nap, and we'll see you here in the morning. And a very good morning here for you guys. We are here to continue our build of the Satsuma. We've completed our engine bay. We've completed the interior of the car. For now, I'm going to be doing the body work before I do the engine. Now then, we're not going to be doing the full body work because there is a little bit of something that I can't do quite yet. So for now, let's get things started. From last night when we were working on our, when we installed the dashboard meters, we had a 6mm in hand. We're going to start with the boot lid. The boot lid itself uses a 6mm. Simple to snap on. After you snap it on, just click and hold to go and open it up. There are 4 bolts for it, 2 on either arm. I will not be attaching the hood right now. The hood is... we'll be putting that on after we're done with the the engine build. We have 2 fenders. For the fender, given that we don't have much space here, I like to go and just lean into it so I can hold it as close as possible. And just snap this one in. It's going to use a 5mm. There are 5 bolts each for the fenders. One down here at the very bottom. One up front. And then there are 3 along the hood here in the engine bay. One in the back. One in the middle. Oops. One down here in the middle. And finally one here up front. Repeat the process for the other one. Now we have our doors to connect. Doors are going to be connected with 10mm. There are 2 doors, there's a right and left. The one that has the rear view mirror, or the side mirror I mean, that's going to be the driver's side door, that's door left. Door right does not have a mirror on it, that's going to be the passenger side door. When you attach the door, there are 2 bolts that you can find right here along the side. Two bolts up top, and then furthermore 2 bolts at the bottom here. And that's going to be the same process for the door on the other end. Next, in the back over here, we're going to find our bumpers. We have our bumper front. We have our bumper rear. And then also, we've got our grille. I'm going to be starting with the bumpers. I've got an 8mm spanner in hand. There are 2 bolts for each bumper. Both of which are going to be a little ways in, about a 1/5 in on either side. And that's going to apply the same for the front bumper. Now then, to connect our grille, this is going to be a 6mm. You want to be able to read Satsuma here just fine, so that's going to put it on the left side where it says Satsuma. It just fits on right in front. There are 2 bolts here. One at the top left, one at the top right. Next, I'll take my 7mm and we'll attach the 2 headlights. The headlights are going to bolt in on either side. And then finally, if you would like, we can also attach our mud flaps. We have mud flap front left, mud flap front right, rear left, rear right. That's going to do it for our body. Everything's looking good for our car so far. The next thing we have to do is we have to start working on our engine. For now, I'm going to move this hoist aside. There's lots of components to the engine here, and there are some that are important that we do in a specific manner. Now that I'm going to take care of my stress by sitting in the sauna for just a little bit, and I will be back with you guys just a moment. Okay, so now that we've decreased our stress a little bit, now we can work on our engine with no worries. So for our engine, there are lots of components here, and I'm going to be going over everything fairly slowly as far as how you should be doing this. We're going to start out with this guy here. This is going to be our engine block. I'm going to start by turning it over. Down here, we've got our crankshaft. Our crankshaft is going to install right on top. Down here, we also have got our camshaft. The camshaft is going to install right inside. For our camshaft, we're going to screw this in with a 5mm. Right on the side here, there are 2 bolts. Then for our crankshaft here, we have 3 headers, or 3 bearings I should say, right here. Main bearing 3 is going to go on the side here with the black end. Main bearing 1 is going to go on the other end with the brass end. And main bearing 2 right in the middle. These are going to bolt in with 9mm. Just on top, right up here. 9mm. Afterwards, turn this over. We're going to grab our head gasket and install this right on top. Just snaps there and stays. Down over here, we've got 4 pistons. Piston 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to bring these over here so we can work on them. Okay, piston 1 is going to go on this end over here with the bolts that are sticking out, and then just go down the line. Piston 2, piston 3, and piston 4. They do fit in specific order, so make sure that you are putting them in that. And also, you cannot go and put the pistons in the wrong spot. The game will not allow you to do so. To go and connect the pistons, we are going to be using a size 7 spanner. And we can just turn this over. Each of the pistons are going to have 2 bolts each. After we have that done, down over here, you'll find the cylinder head. Cylinder head is going to snap right on top. And then also we have our rocker shaft. The rocker shaft is going to fit right over the top. For the cylinder head, there are 10 bolts that we need to screw in. All of these are going to be 7mm as well. The rocker shaft up top is going to be bolted in with 8mm. There are 5 of them. And then finally, we'll have the rocker cover going over the top. There are 6 bolts for this, all of which are 7mm. At this point, I'm going to take our shopping that we did earlier on day 1, and I'm just going to break this open. We have a few things that we need. There is our alternator belt, and put that up here. And then we also need our spark plugs. Grab that box. Now holding the box of spark plugs, go and hit the use button, and you're going to drop out a spark plug. There are 4 spark plugs in this box, so just pull out all 4. After which the box will say empty. Grab a spark plug. There are 4 slots right up here. The spark plugs just fit in nicely right in these. This tool right here, our spark plug wrench, is needed to bolt these in. Okay, turning it around on the other side here. Going to grab these headers. The headers are going to snap on right here. These are exhaust headers. And then also right here, this is our carburetor. The carburetor is also going to snap on in the same spot. Go. This is going to be with our 8mm. There are 9 bolts altogether for these ones. 2 on the sides here, 1 right in the middle, and 2 on the other ends. Okay, after we have all those in, I'm going to go down here, grab our camshaft gear. It's going to install right over here. The camshaft gear is going to connect with a 10mm. Now then, the camshaft gear is a little bit special. This is an item that we will need to tune and align to make sure that it is running properly. Now then, when you're tuning it, we'll take a look here. There is a little dash right here. That little notch. There's a notch here, and another notch here. When you're putting it on, you want for it to be aligned properly. That notch should line up all the way across with your camshaft, the engine block, and the camshaft gear. Or the crankshaft, I mean. Crankshaft, engine block, and camshaft gear. Now then, when you install this, the camshaft gear, it will always be aligned exactly where you need it the first time. When you're tightening this, make sure that you spin the bolt 8 times exactly. If you spin it any more than 8, and it will be misaligned, and you'll have to go and turn it repeatedly until the camshaft gear is aligned properly again. If you decide to take off the camshaft gear and put it back on, it will not be aligned properly. So be careful with this one. Now then, if you put it on and screw it in exactly 8, then you don't have to worry about it. That's 8. This is the one item that is possible to over tighten, and when you over tighten it, it goes and misaligns the entire thing. Afterwards, we'll grab our timing chain. Timing chain fits right there. Down over here, we have our timing cover. It's going to fit right over the top. The timing cover is going to need a 6mm. There are 6 bolts for this one. Here, I'm going to grab our crankshaft pulley, and that's going to install right here. The crankshaft pulley is going to be bolted in with an 11mm. Next, our water pump. Water pump sits right there with a 7mm. We have 5 bolts on this one. After bolting all of those in, you can get your water pump pulley and install that right on top. And in this one, there are 4 bolts, all of which are 7mm.
These mortals have awakened the gods of old. We rise from our slumber.
Now we'll grab our alternator. Right here on the side, there's a little scoop. The alternator fits right there. We have got a 7mm up top. A 10mm in the back. And finally, we'll need a screwdriver for that one. Before we use the screwdriver, we have to install the alternator belt. So we'll just snap this thing on. And taking a look at it, you'll see that the alternator doesn't quite fit in the belt. So we're going to have to move this over. Before you go and bolt it in, you can mouse this over and move it all the way out. After you move it all the way out, push it back in 2 times. And then you want to bolt it in. By putting it in 2 times, the belt is tight enough that it's going to spin without being too tight. but it's still needing to be tuned later on. And then we'll go over that when we get to our tuning. From here, I'm going to grab my distributor right behind the oil filter. Distributor is going to fit on this side. There's a little spot right here. And this one's also going to screw in. The distributor is another item that we're going to need to tune later, but that's for when we get to that part. Next, I've got a 7mm. I'm going to pick up our fuel pump and install this one. Right here, there's a little spot right there, and that's going to be where our fuel pump installs. There are two 7mm bolts on this one. Right underneath the cap on both sides. Once you have those in, we can install our oil filter. There's this little pipe that's jutting out right here. That's where the oil filter goes. Once you put it on, make sure you screw it in. That one doesn't need any special tools. You can screw it in by hand. Next, I've got my electrics. The electrics are going to fit right on top of the spark plugs, just like so. For the electrics, it's going to take an 8mm, and actually what we're doing is we're screwing in this side here. What this is doing here is it's actually screwing it into the engine, but the game doesn't, we can go and skip a step by screwing it in now as opposed to screwing it in after we install it. By putting it in now, the game, when we install it, will assume that the ignition coil has been properly installed. So we'll turn this guy around. Down over here, we've got our engine plate. The engine plate's going to go right at the end. From here, we can go and grab our starter, throw our starter in. It's going to install right at the end, this little spot. Oh, okay. There we go. There's a little slot right here on the side of the engine plate. We can install that in. That's going to be a 7mm. 2 bolts for this one. Then down here, I'm going to grab my oil pan since we have it turned over. The oil pan is going to fit right over the top. We have 8 7mm bolts for this one. Four on this side, 4 on the other. Now then there is a bolt on top of the oil pan. This one. In the game, if you ever need to change your oil, this is the pin that you need to pull out. You need to go and unbolt this, and it's going to drain out all your oil. But for now, we want to make sure that's in so we're not draining out our oil when we don't need to. Next, I'm going to drop down here, pick up our gearbox. I'm just going to set this here because we're not quite ready for that almost. I'm going to grab our flywheel. Install the flywheel at the end here, right on the other side of the starter. This is going to be a 7mm. There are 6 bolts right in the center. After that, we'll have to make our clutch. There are 3 discs remaining here. We've got our clutch cover plate, our clutch pressure plate, and our clutch disc. These ones just snap together like so. The pressure plate connects to the cover plate, and then the disc connects to that. And now we have our clutch. The clutch is going to go right over the end of the flywheel, and is going to be bolted in with a 6mm in 6 spots on the outside of the ring. Once we have that in, we're going to take our gearbox. And our gearbox is going to install right over like so. I've got 6 7mm screws right on the front end of this that we're going to install. We're going to be on the outer side. And 3 on the other. I also have got one 10mm. This one is one I used to miss a lot. The gearbox has a 10mm one. It's going to be right over on the side over here. Right here. Okay, and next, we're running out of things on our shelves. Our drive gear will be the next thing that we're installing. Right here in the middle of our gearbox, there's a little hole right here. That's going to go and fit our drive gear. We have 7 6mm bolts for this. There are going to be 6 around the center here, and then 1 at the end of the arm. All of which 6mm. From here, we can turn this over. On the desk up here, we have our air filter. It snaps on right on top up here, on top of our carburetor, and there are 2 6mm bolts that screw it in here. Congrats, you're done with the engine. We're almost done with our build. From here, we're going to set the engine down. We have to go and identify which side that we need. You want one that has the side that has the air filter facing towards you. Take that and place it like so. We're going to place it on our hoist down here. And then we just need to drop our hoist down. And once it gets low enough, we'll be able to connect it. The hoist will be used to go and align it properly inside the engine bay. So right here, this uses a 10mm for these bolts. There's one on this side and one on the other. These are 10mm. Now that we have the engine hoisted, we'll be able to install this inside of our engine, no problem. Or inside of our engine bay, I should say. Still too low. Let's raise it up. Pay attention to the engine as you're doing this here. If it looks like the engine gets caught on something, then you'll have to raise it back up and realign it. And then if the engine drops in nicely like this here, then when you see the car start to go and drop down, like from the weight of the engine, then you have dropped it too low. This is going to be an 11mm that we need at this point. So come over here to your car, stick your head through, and then what we're looking here is right up here. There's these black things here. These are our rubber bushings. We want to align the headers here for the engine along with the rubber bushings. That way we can get it mounted. So from the looks of it, I am one too high, and I need to back it up or back it out that way just a little bit. So there we go, and drop it down by 1. Now that we have that fairly close, you'll see that there is a bolt now available. This is 11mm. Once we start to bolt this in, it will go and latch the engine to the frame, like so. Bolt in one of them, then get your 10mm, and we have to disconnect the hoist. Alright, our hoist has been disconnected and is separated from the engine. Yeah, it's disconnected. I don't know why it's still doing so. Well, since it's disconnected, we can actually just move this out the way. And after you do that, make sure that you connect the engine with the other 2 bushings that are there. There are 2 up front. There's the one up here, one on the side. And then also there is one in the back, right here. Now then, with our engine attached, underneath here, I'm going to attach these guys. This is our gear linkage. This is going to connect the gear linkage here to the gearbox so that we can properly change gears. There's these ones, and also one more that's right there. Now that our engine is installed, we can finally do these last little bits of the suspension that we had left. It's going to be a 12mm here for the steering rods. Grab it at the end here so that the black part is facing out, and it snaps in right here. Do the same for the other side. Now I'm going to grab a 9mm. Now we need to connect our half shafts. These connect onto the gearbox, which is how come we could not do this until we installed the engine. First we have to install the disc brake. Put it in, but do not screw it in. Now we can install the half shaft. You will not be able to install the half shaft if the disc brake is not on, and if you have screwed in the disc brake, you will not be able to attach the half shaft. So this needs to be connected but not screwed in. After you put that in, just go ahead and lean in. There are 3 bolts on the half shaft here to go and screw in. One in each of the 3 corners. And then finally grab your 14mm to go and bolt in the disc brake. Repeat the process on the other side, and your suspension will be done. So we're done with our engine, we're done with the suspension, done with the body, we're just about done with our car. Down over here we have to attach our radiator hoses. So just go and toss these over there so we can put them on. Start with this big one, this radiator hose 3. There's going to be a long straight part and then a hook. The hook is going to go on your right hand side. And this is going to install down on this side here. That connects at the bottom of the radiator and hooks out this way. Now then there is one that's a 90°. That is going to attach the end of the radiator we just installed over here. So just somewhere back over here. And then finally this last one, this is going to be at the top of the radiator, right up over here. From here we'll need to do some wiring for the car. But I think for now I'm going to go and pick up our tires. The tires that we had left with Fleetari, they should be ready. So I'm going to drive over there, pick those up, and I will be back in just a moment. We'll go and see you back here at the house. And yeah, just one sec. Hey there guys, we are back here once again. As soon as I got here, I ran in and turned on my sauna because I noticed that we're pretty stressed out. So we got our tires from Fleetari. They are nice and new. There's no, they're not cracked or anything of the sort. So these are going to be the next things that we're installing. Now then, when you're putting your tires on your car, you don't exactly know which tire is supposed to go for what. They don't exactly show you cleanly which one goes for which spots. So we're going to have to figure that out. Now then, it's not required that you put your tires on in the correct spot. You can have them in the wrong spot, and that's totally fine. It's just that if you have them in the right spot, then you're not going to have as much tire wear with them, and they're going to be wearing pretty evenly. Now then, in order to find the right spot, the only way that I know how is to be using your hubcaps. You'll notice rear left, rear right, and front left. So I'm going to take my rear right since we're over on this side, and I got to check each tire individually. So this connects our rear right. It won't connect to anything else. So I know that this one here is our rear right tire. Now then, our tires connect with 13mm. And then I can just place our hubcaps right on them. Now then, the hubcaps are not a requirement for the to pass the inspection. It's just something that I'm doing here since we're doing a tutorial of this here. So this is not rear left. That's not rear, or what is this? Rear left. Okay. here we are. Hubcap front right. Could be this one. So this is, again, the only way that I know how to go and tell which tire is which one. And it does not matter, like I said, which tire is in which position if you are doing the inspection. And for the most part, it doesn't matter at all. Your tires are just going to wear out faster if they are in the wrong spot. And, yeah. Okay. So now we'll be working on our wiring. I wonder if the sauna is ready. Let me check and see if the sauna is ready. So we have all of our tires installed. Now we're going to work on some wiring. To start with, we're going to open up the back of the trunk here, and as well as the passenger door. Now then, a lot of people don't like the wiring. They say like it's a difficult thing, that it's like takes out from the fun of the game because it's so like it's really not all that bad, and I will show you how to do this really quickly. So first of all, we're going to grab our wiring as far back as I can. We're going to start with the rear, with the trunk here, the boot, I guess. Right back here, we're going to walk it right up to our rear harness connector. And then when you're using this here, you want to make sure that you're not clicking. You're going to use the, while holding it, I'm going to press the use button, which for me is F. So rear harness connector. And then connect to our rear headlight. Rear harness connector, fuel tank. And then once I have that, I'm going to drop and get as close as possible by leaning into it. And that's going to be it for our back. We connected the fuel tank and both tail lights. Now then, inside the car, holding it still as close as possible, just lean in and you can find your fuse box. Fuse box we can connect here to instrument panel 2. Fuse box to instrument panel 1. Fuse box to your ignition switch. And up here you have your radio. Radio is going to connect to your radio harness. And then on the other side, right here, you have your dash harness. It's going to connect to your light switch. You're done with the interior. For the engine, you want to grab it at a decent length. Nothing too far, nothing too short. From here, lean in. Find your main harness. You're going to connect to your regulator. One more time. Your main harness to your ignition coil. You can connect your regulator down over here to your alternator. And then your main harness down to your radiator. Your main harness to your positive terminal. There we go. Your positive terminal is going to connect down here to your starter. Okay. From here, we're going to take our 7mm and then leaning in on our starter here. The bolt right here, we're going to undo this one. We are also going to undo our headlights. Go ahead and remove your headlights. Your wiring, right here where the headlight was, you'll find your headlight left. And then that's going to connect right here to your front light connector. It's going to be right underneath where it says Satsuma. And that's going to connect again to your headlight right. And finally, your headlight connector is going to connect to your harness. Now then, we also disconnected a 7mm on our starter. So grab your negative terminal this time. And then we're going to lean in and connect that same spot that we just connected. That's our battery ground connector. And that's it for our wiring. Really easy, really quick. If you would like, you don't have to put the headlights in. You can do the wiring before you put the headlights in. So if I wanted to, I could have left it off until this point in time. So we're going to bolt everything except for the battery. Don't do the battery quite yet. So the headlights, again, are 7mm. Right down here, the bolt that we loosened, get that back in. That's also 7mm. On our starter, where we connected the positive terminal, is actually in the back, right over here. There was no bolt there before, but there is now. So is that one. The alternator over here does not have any bolt. You don't have to worry about that. The only thing you had to go and screw in was our starter. Now then, we'll go over here for an 8mm, and we're going to connect our battery. Now then, when you're doing your battery, important to note, and this is also when you're changing your battery or if you're doing anything else with your battery, the positive terminal, that's this side here, the one with the red, and two cords coming out of it. This one needs to be connected at all. This one is okay to be connected. Your negative terminal with the blue and the one cord is never to be connected by itself. Otherwise, you're going to short out the battery and you're going to burn things out, possibly catch an engine fire. So we're going to connect our positive side first, then our negative side. And then if we were taking out the battery, I would take out the negative first, then the positive. And that's going to be it for our wiring. So with our engine in place there, and all of our wiring all done, now I'm going to attach our hood. The hood is going to connect with a 6mm. In order to get to the hood, you'll need to open your door. Right down over here, there's this little lever. This is your hood lock. Pull that and it unlocks the hood. Just click and hold, and you'll open it up all the way. There are 4 bolts right at the bottom. And there you go. Congratulations, you have just completed the Satsuma. If you would like, you can go and put the Christmas lights on. I like doing so. Now then, the Satsuma is all built, everything is all done. Now, well, I guess not, because we haven't put in the exhaust pipe or the exhaust muffler yet. Let's go and put those on. And I will go and show you this little trick that I do, because now we need to get the car started and get tuning. So for the exhaust pipe and the exhaust muffler, both of these are going to be 7mm. So the way that I put this in is, there's 2 sides to the exhaust muffler. There's one that has like this little thing here, and then the other has a more sharper hook, like a 90-degree hook side on it. The one with the hook needs to be facing up, and that's going towards the engine. So I'm just going to grab it about halfway, and just kind of just lean into the car with it, approximately where it needs to go. So now we're going to install it. When I'm installing the exhaust pipe, there are 3 bolts for it. There's 2 up here. And then also, there's one back here. Right there. I'm not going to screw this one in. Not yet. Now I'm going to be installing our muffler. Muffler connects at the end of the exhaust pipe, so you can't really put it in unless you have the pipe in place. Now then, over here, I am going to be disconnecting the air filter. I'm gonna take the air filter off so I can see better what's going on with the engine. So let's just go and remove this. And then also I'm gonna grab my 7mm. I'm going to be removing this guy here, the rocker head cover. There are 6 bolts, if you remember these ones, 3 on either side. Careful when you're doing that, because you can highlight bolts inside the engine, and you only want to get the ones that are connecting the cover to keep it in place. Alright, it's disconnected. I'm going to put it back on for now. But I'm not going to tighten it. Now we need to get all of our fluids in so we can start the car. We have our gasoline. The jerry can that we filled up will go and fill up about half the tank. And then we are going to be going hungry for this day because we didn't have enough money for food because we bought that spare battery. But that's okay. And then if you're taking your time with this, you might have food, you might be able to go out and have done a job or two, go to town, buy more food. So just do your own thing with that. You don't have to be following exactly what we're doing here. So this is simply a tutorial. Okay. Now for our engine, I've got this spot here, this one here, and in these 3. The one right in the middle, that's going to be our engine. That's going to take motor oil. Now then, if you're putting this in and then you notice that like it's just draining out immediately, if it's the motor oil that you're putting in, then that means at the bottom of your engine you never connected your you never put that pin back in for your on your oil pan, and it's just draining right back out. So you'll want to make sure that you go back under and take care of that. Next we have our coolant. The coolant is going to go right up front in the radiator. If this one is draining out immediately, like you're putting in and the bar doesn't go up, then that means that you have you have not installed all of your radiator hoses. Finally, we have our 3 bottles of this. This can be our brake fluid, our clutch fluid, our transmission fluid. There's nothing different about the bottles. They're all the same, and the fluids can be used, can be interchanged, whatever. That's going to be for these 3 right up here. It's going to take 2.5 bottles to fill up all 3 of them. There we go. All of them are filled, so I'm going to cap all these again. Now we get to a part that some of you have been waiting on. This is going to be the tuning. Now that we have the oil in, we can remove our rocker cover. We'll be installing that again later on. But for now, we are now in tuning mode. And I will be showing you guys how to be doing all the manual tuning for your vehicle, so that you don't need to be bringing it in to Fleetari to have him do it. Step into your car. Your car is all built. Everything's looking great. Now we need to turn it on. Enter driving mode. We're going to pull out the choke here all the way before we turn on our engine. And everything should turn on just fine. With the choke on all the way, we're going to rev the engine and watch our temperature gauge. We want the temperature gauge to be about halfway. That's going to be our running temperature for the car. That's going to be about the usual. And then we're just going to keep on revving the car until we get there. Once we get to that point, then we'll be able to start doing the tuning. If the car is too cold, if the engine's too cold, then there's a good chance it's going to just shut itself off. It's going to stall. Okay, this is pretty good. Let's leave that here for now. First things first, we're going to go down here and we're going to tune our distributor. So you want to make sure you have the sound up for this part, by the way. Unscrew this 2 times, then switch back to your hand. And then now we're going to slowly turn the distributor. Mouse wheel down until you hear it start jingling. There it goes. Mouse wheel back up just to where it stops. The moment and like where it stops when you're so what I do is I go in mouse wheel once and then I wait for it to jingle, then mouse wheel up once, and I just let it go for a moment. And now that it's stopped, that's where I'm going to tune it. So 2 down, or screw it back in twice. So now our distributor is tuned, and with this tuned properly, we'll be able to get proper power out of our car. So we're not going to, so this is going to make sure that we have the proper amount of power going to our rockers. Next, we're going to tune our alternator belt. Unscrew it twice. And then for this one, we're going to mouse wheel up until we hear it start whining. right there. And then we're going to put it right to where it stops winding, and then we're going to bolt that in. And that's going to be the optimum tightness for the belt. Now then, this is our first time that we're running the engine, and all the components for this are old, worn components because we got it from the garage. And so we're going to be tuning our carburetor and our rocker heads accordingly with that. There's two different ways you can be tuning your rocker heads that is recommended, and I will be telling you the one that I prefer to go with and what I recommend. So we'll go and look over things with your rockers one moment. We have this is piston 1, piston 2, piston 3, and piston 4. It's important to think of 1 and 2 as a pair and 3 and 4 as a pair. So for pistons 1 and 2, the interior 2, these guys here, these are your intake. The outer ones are your exhaust. And the same for piston 3 and 4. The inner 2 are intake and the outer 2 are exhaust. Okay, so for our intake, what we're going to do is we're going to tune these down, and our exhaust, we're going to tune it up. And by that means, what I mean by that is we're going to take our screwdriver and we're going to mouse wheel up on our exhaust, and then we're going to mouse wheel down on our intake. Now then what we're going for is until we hear it start ticking. So just slowly, there it goes, start ticking. Once it starts ticking, just mouse wheel until, so I went up on our exhaust, so I have to mouse wheel back down to where it stops ticking. So right there, that's optimal. That's where I want that tuned. And then for the intake, we're going to mouse wheel down until it starts ticking. And then mouse wheel up to where it stops. And we're going to do that for all of them. Intake is down, exhaust is up. Now, the other way that people that they recommend for you to tune this is to tune everything down. However, that's really it's a really good build. It's optimal in that everything's going to be running pretty smoothly, and it's going to operate very well at high RPMs. However, it's very damaging on your engine systems, and it's very taxing on there. So you're putting a lot of wear on your engine systems if you tune everything down. By doing the tuning that I do, where the intake is down and the exhaust is up, it's actually it's less taxing on your systems. And given that a lot of these components in here are worn and old, there's less chance for you to go and blow them out super fast. So this is good for wanting to get the inspection done. So now we're done with the rockers. Oops. We are done with the rockers. We're done with your alternator belt as well as your distributor. Now we have to tune your carburetor. However, I am going to be going to bed because it's nighttime. It's getting pretty dark out here. No, we won't go to bed quite yet. We'll go and do our alignment before then. And then in the morning we'll take care of our carburetor because it's a little bit too dark for me to see right now. It's too dark to do this too, so I'm just going to grab my 7mm spanner and we'll be going to bed. And I will see you in the morning. All right, another Another bright and sunny day. Good times. We're still hungry, but that's okay. Now we need to go and take care of some tuning for our carburetor. So one more time, we're going to start up our engine. Our choke is on. And we just want to rev this until our temperature is at running temps, which is about halfway. Our engine already sounds a lot better. So with the engine at running temperature, take this over here. And I'm going to undo our exhaust pipe. This is going to get loud when this drops, so just a warning. After we drop this, I'm going to grab my screwdriver and we're going to take care of the carburetor. So here goes. Okay, so I went in and just turned that down as in my OBS. So the reason how come I had my exhaust pipe on was so that I can go and hear the jingling from the distributor, the ticking from the rocker heads as we were doing that. But for the exhaust here, I need to actually physically be able to see it. It's not so much that I hear it. So now we're going to reach in here and we're going to get to our choke and we're going to go and put that back down. Hear that misfire there? Look at the exhaust coming out here. It's really white. We are going to go to our little pin here, and we're going to tune it down. This mouse wheel down all the way until it turns into this darkish black smoke, right there. So what we're doing is we're making this run rich. By that it means that we're running a lot more fuel in here. When it's more fuel and less air. That's going to be better for our engine and components right now. So when it's in its the black smoke, I'm going to slowly mouse wheel up until it starts turning into that grayish black. It's going to start changing colors there. So right there, see how it's swapping between gray and black. So right there is where I want it, when it's kind of between the gray and black at idle. You can go to your hand and you can grab this thing right here, your throttle linkage, and you can rev it manually. The warmer the engine gets, the more lean that it's running. That means that it has more air and less fuel. Well, that's good for like your rallies. That's going to be really bad for just generic driving and for old components. Okay. We can kill the ignition. And our carburetor is now tuned. Our carburetor is tuned. Our engine is fully tuned. Everything should be running great with this car for the most part. There is one last thing we need to take care of. Before the car is fully ready, the one last thing we need to do. So let's just go and bolt this guy in. All the things on the rocker heads. Okay. Now we're going to grab our 14mm. We need to take care of our alignment. For our alignment, actually, let me turn this back up. Okay. For our alignment, we're going to have to go down to our tires here. And right back over here, this is on the steering rod, the tie rod. you're going to find this this nut on here. You're going to use the 14mm and you're just going to turn this. And then as I'm turning this, go and notice that this thing's moving, my wheel's moving, everything's moving along with it. We want to go and move this all the way until it stops. So wheel either up or down, does not matter. Do this until it stops moving. So there we go, it has now stopped moving. Now what we're going to do, so I'm just going to do that just a couple more times so you can see. It's not moving. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mouse wheel in the opposite direction that I'm doing right now, 60 times, 60. Okay, and we're going to repeat the same process for the other side here. So just find the nut there, and then just go and mouse wheel it until the tire and the arm stops moving. Which is right there. And then we're going to mouse wheel 60 times in the opposite direction. Alright, so there we are. That was 60 from each, and that's going to put our tires in proper alignment. The tire still looks like it's towed out. I don't know. Might just be that the way that the car is facing. I might have miscounted. Let me try it one more time. Okay, that was weird. The 9mm here just clicked out when I'm holding a 14. Okay, it stopped moving, so I'm going to do 60 times in the opposite direction. There we go. That should do. So that's going to be our alignment for our tires. That still looks like it's towed out. Must just be the way that the car is sitting. Okay, now we have to install our exhaust pipe one more time because we let that fall out while we were doing the tuning. Okay, so 7mm. This time we are going to connect this one in the back. And we got the one up front. Okay. So that's it. Congratulations. You have now completely built your Satsuma. That includes your timing, your tuning, your alignment. Everything is all good. Now, the only thing left to do is pass the inspection. Now, I'm gonna grab our money over here. Oh well, we had a lot of money in there. 1,449. Very nice. It's gonna help us buy things that we need. So let's get going. Now then, normally while you're doing this here, you're going to need to, you would need to, like, rev your engine a little bit or get your choke going, before you can start your engine. But given how we went and tuned our rockers, there's no need to have your engine pre-revved up before going. Over here, make sure you grab your triangle, otherwise you're going to fail your inspection. Okay, and I will see you guys there. Hey there, guys. We're over here. My guy here has just been complaining this entire time, just like so bad. You can see he's super hungry, super thirsty, stressed out. Okay. So let's go and eat some, grab some smokes, have a few beers to go and take care of our thirst. And let's just do something like that. And we also need to get some more fuel. While the half tank that we while the jerry can that we filled up was good to get us here, it's not really enough to go and get us back home. Well, I guess it is, but beyond that there's not much else. So I'm here also to go and fill up on that. So we're going to fill up our jerry can, we're going to fill up our car, then we're going to go to the inspection. Okay. Okay, so now we just need to go and pass our inspection and we're all done. I forgot to go and mention this. Because you have a lot of old components in your vehicle, They're old and worn. Try not to go and be pushing it too high on the high end of the fourth gear. I would recommend while you're driving, just keep it at like a mild fourth gear. When you're on the highway, and you'll be good. So we need to go and take care of a couple of things here. Just deal with our stress, deal with our urine. What do you think? Nice car, huh? And there we go. Your car passed. Everything looks good. And there you go, guys. That is a complete car build for the Satsuma. All components, showing you where to go and what your shopping list should go and entail, what you need to be getting from the mansion as far as your car parts, and all the things associated with it. So that's what you're going to have to do if you want to pass inspection. Here we are. Alright, well thanks for watching, guys. Hope this one helped out. Hope with this you guys should all be able to pass inspection just fine. Now then, just as a heads up, like I said, just take it easy on your engine while you're driving out here. The goal is for you to pass the inspection. It's not for you to go and turn this car right now into a rally winner. You need to be replacing a lot of parts for that. You will need to be taking components over to Fleetari to go and change out, such as your engine block, your head gasket, possibly pistons, but probably just your head gasket and your engine block, I think. But eventually you're going to need to be replacing all of your engine parts to get newer stuff. And then as you do that, you'll be buying new components, some rally parts and all. And then, yeah. But for now... Oh, we forgot to pay for gas. It's like, why is it so expensive for just 2 of these? Yep. So for now, that's all you have to do. Thanks again for watching the series. I hope you guys hope this guy. What an odd summer. It rains and then rain stops. Wow, that's so weird. That's kind of like how rain normally works, huh? Alright, so anyways, I hope this one helped you guys out, and you guys are able to go and build your Satsuma, no problem. Be able to pass inspection. And then from there, beyond that, as far as driving for the rally, that's all on you. I can't go and tell you how to go and I can't teach you how to drive.
Ukkonenkin vähän jyrähti. Oliko se nyt siinä 3 aikaa, kun minä Virksellä kävin siinä, niin silloin kuulitko sinä, kun se vähän jytisi? Aika kovaa itse asiassa. Taisi mennä ihan justiinsa siitä meidän yli. Mut on kyllä merkillinen kesä ollut. En muista.
Well, thanks again for watching.
No, viime
We'll see you guys next time. ShinMasaki out.